Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is the final piece of the jigsaw in our CPF Life series. The spark behind today's discussion actually came from a conversation with a viewer in the comment section. They asked a very interesting question that piqued my curiosity. What actually happens to the math when the annuity premium percentage goes up? That got me thinking. We have already covered basic versus standard at 65, and last week we looked at basic 65 versus basic 70. So to complete the matrix, we need to look at the final permutation, basic 70 versus standard 70. And since we are already looking at the age 70 numbers, I will also briefly touch on standard 65 versus standard 70 to wrap everything up. If you have watched my previous videos, you'll know that delaying the basic plan to 70 causes the annuity premium AP to jump from about 10% to 15%. So this video is a natural extension. We are going to compare B70 with S70 to see exactly what's the impact of that higher AP percentage. Are there any surprises lurking in the numbers after shifting the monthly payout by 5 years? It helps us see the missing link. Before I do a summary and personal reflection on this entire CPF journey that we have taken together next week. By the way, if you are new here, welcome. I've just created a specific playlist on the channel so that you can catch up on the previous comparisons in a logical sequence. I highly recommend watching those first to get the full context. Now, let's quickly set the stage again. We are using the 2025 cohort FRS, which is 213K at age 55. This time, instead of compounding for 10 years, we let it run for 15 years all the way to age 70. At 4% per year, that grows to about 390,000. So this 390K is our common starting point. For the standard plan, the mechanics are simple. The entire RA amount goes into the annuity premium, and the interest generated by the AP joins the common pool. You get a fixed payout for life, which in my model works out to about 2,290 per month. The basic plan, however, behaves very differently. It has two phases, before 90 and after 90. And crucially, in the first phase, interest earned on RA savings stays with you instead of flowing into the common pool. And because we are now starting at 70, annuity premium is a larger slice of the pie, 15% instead of 10% at 65. So for this comparison, I've extended the model all the way to age 100. So that's 30 years from 70 or 360 months. Alright, with that context in place, let's bring the discussion on screen and see what exactly happens when the annuity premium percentage goes up. Now the blue columns are for B70, green for S70, and the purple ones are for the comparison between the two plans. Negative amounts indicate that standard is more than basic, while positive numbers indicate the other way around. S70 pays $210 more than basic. The yearly difference will accumulate to 2,520. But the bequest and lifetime value, which is the sum of payout and bequest, is more for B70. At month 170, corresponding to 84 years 2 months, that's when the bequest of S70 reaches zero. That's also when the maximum difference in bequest, where B70 exceeds S70 by 183.7K, and LT value, lifetime value of B70 is 148K in excess of S70, after which both values will start to narrow between the two plans. Break-even point happens at month 244, corresponding to 90 years 4 months, when value of standard 70 overtakes that of basic. After that, the lifetime value of S70 will just zoom ahead as B70 starts drawdown from the AP. 2 years later, bequest of B70 reaches zero at month 269, around 92.5 years, and by 95, the standard plan will be 66K ahead. If you get to 100, S70 will be 81.6K ahead. So let's come back to the original question we started with. What actually changes when the annuity premium percentage goes up as we delay payouts from 65 to 70? Two things stood out to me. The first is monthly payout growth. For the standard plan, when we delay starting the payout from 65 to 70, the monthly amount increases by about 34.7%. For the basic plans, the increase is slightly lower at 33.3%. A 1.4% difference sounds small, but over a long retirement, it adds up. You can see this clearly in the long run. At age 100, the lifetime value gap between standard and basic starting at 65 was about 68.4K. When both starts at 70, that gap widens to about 81.6K. So delaying payouts favors the standard plan in cumulative cash flow terms. The second thing is how the basic plan's mechanics change when the AP percentage rises. With more money going into the annuity premium, less remains in the RA savings. This means that less interest flows back to our individual RA accounts and more into the common pool. On the graph, this shows up very clearly. The B70 bequest line drops faster, behaving more like standard. That leads to three consequences. First, the maximum lifetime value gap between B70 and S70 is still around 150K. Not much difference from the gap between B65 and S65. Second, the gap in time between the standard bequest hitting zero and the basic bequest hitting zero shrinks noticeably. At age 65, that gap was about 12 years. At age 70, it shortens to 8 years. Third, the standard plan catches up faster. For payout starting at 65, it took about 24 years for the lifetime value of standard to overtake that of basic. But for the start at 70 plans, it takes just over 20 years for S70 to overtake B70. Now, to be precise, the break-even point in calendar age is actually about 10 years later for the start at 70 plans. So if someone passes away exactly at age 90, he would receive slightly more money overall if he had chosen B65 over S65. Whereas if he had chosen the standard 70 over basic 70, he will still be slightly behind. But when taken together, the message is pretty clear. B70 still has an advantage when it comes to bequest and LT value in the early years of CPF Life, but that advantage is less pronounced than it was at 65 due to the higher AP percentage. Now, before someone asks me to compare standard 65 versus standard 70, no need. I already preempted that. Last week in my B65 versus B70 video, I introduced the idea of the mirror figure together with my cup noodles analogy. Go catch it if you haven't. Now, by delaying payouts for 5 years, using the numbers for the standard plans, the total amount from 65 to 70 will come up to 1,700 times 12 months times 5 years, giving us 102K. Now, basically, if you are willing to starve yourself of 102K worth of life experiences between 65 and 70, like not eating the cup noodles early, it is a fallacy to fixate on the cumulative payout figure and thinking that so long as S70 is bigger than S65, that it is of better value. But that metric is flawed because it ignores what you have sacrificed. A fairer metric is therefore to look for the age where S70 puts you 102k ahead of B70, effectively mirroring the deficit that you started with. When I checked the lifetime value curves of S65 versus S70, the mirror image was around age 98 years, 5 months. A bit better than B65 versus B70. But personally, I have no interest in giving up money between 65 and 70 just to slowly earn it back until I'm pushing 98. That's simply not a trade-off that I'm willing to make. So to wrap this up, what this final comparison really shows is that CPF Life doesn't have a single best option. The math shifts depending on which plan you choose and when you start. And as we saw today, small structural changes like that higher annuity premium percentage at age 70 can meaningfully alter the trade-offs. At 70, the basic plan still protects more individual value upfront, but the cost of risk pooling becomes more visible as the interest flowing back to the RA account decreases. That's why I've always said this series isn't about picking winners, it's about understanding exactly what you are giving up and what you are buying in return. Next week, I'll step back from all the spreadsheets to take a big picture look at CPF as a pension system supporting Singaporeans' retirement and share some personal reflection on this journey that we have taken together over the past 2 months. If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up, share, and subscribe. I will see you in the next one.